Hey there, welcome to the installation video for the wand portion of the GPStar Essential Kit. If you're looking for the Supreme Kit or you order some of the other wand mods individually, then you're in the wrong video, so go to the right one. All right, so let's get started. Okay, the first thing we're gonna do is open this up. In order to do that, we need to access the screws that are inside and hidden by 4 pegs here on the bottom of the gun track. The method I like to do is to just dig a hole in the middle. You can use some snippers like I am, just enough to get a little bit exposed. Grab a small self-tapping screw, screw it in, take some pliers, and wiggle back and forth and yank it out. Now, depending what wand you have, some of them are glued in quite a bit, so they might not come out as cleanly. So I'm gonna try that again, and then the rest come out pretty easily. I believe some of the newer version wands at the time of making this video have much stronger glue inside. Some of the older versions aren't glued in as much. And yes, you can take a drill to drill a hole instead, but make sure you don't go too deep. You don't want to strip the screw that's underneath. This one came out nice and clean. You just need to wiggle it back and forth as you're pulling up a little bit. There you go, all done. You'll probably have some debris or glue still stuck in the edges in the holes. So you're just gonna take a tool of some sort and just clean it out a little bit. Then take your screwdriver and go ahead and unscrew them out. If you end up having the screws not be able to pop out because of some of the debris that's still on the edges keeping it in, that's okay, you can leave them in there, it's not a big deal. So for me, I only got 2 of these out, I'm gonna put them in here. And yeah, I'm just gonna leave those 2 in there, it's okay. Let's put this aside. Now back to the wand, there's another 4 screws you're gonna need to remove. For 3 of these, you'll probably need a longer screwdriver. This screw here is longer than the other ones, so it's gonna take longer to remove. So open this up and flip it over. Okay, now that we have access inside, make sure your wand is extended. Now go ahead and grab some masking tape or whatever tape. You're gonna want to rip off a piece and tape down your speakers because it will fall off. Turn our attention to the back of the handle. Unscrew the screw here. Remove the cap. Make sure that your battery tray is out and tossed aside. Now that we're inside, take a screwdriver and go ahead and remove this part right here. And lift up the spring. That will give you access to the screw here. Take that off as well. And then you can just take this off and put it aside. Okay, next we're gonna work on the main board here. First, let's just break off this peg here. You don't need these. And then remove the 4 screws holding down this main board. And now we're going to carefully remove these connectors. You'll find simply pulling them out is quite difficult, and you definitely don't want to just yank on these wires because you don't want to break these off and go crying afterward. So what I suggest you do is take some fine tweezers and you want to wedge it in where the connecting tabs are, like that. Let me center it. And then see if you can gently pull it out then. So that it's a little difficult, but as you see, take a look. I was able to remove it partially, so I think I should be able to just pull it out now without the tweezers. So you want to try to always pull from the housing, not the wires. There you go. You want to just snip this cable tie here. So for this one, same thing. I'm just gonna put some pliers in, pry it up. And just wiggle it out. Oh man, that one was tough. That one was tough. Flipping it over. Okay, there you go. Anything else? Oh, that's it, just those three. Now to remove the rest of these wires, while this kit doesn't have any soldering involved, we do highly recommend you use a soldering iron to desolder these. Much easier, much cleaner. And I'll demonstrate that soon, but if you really insist on not doing that method, then you can take some scissors. I already did that one. You just need to go in there and snip them off at the ends. And then if you do have, you know, wire stripper, this is 26 gauge, you can go in there and strip it. Or if you don't, and you really do insist on doing this method, just take your scissors and lightly apply a bit of pressure and turn around until you snip off the covers a little bit, and then just pull up. There you go. Give it a little twist of the exposed wire, and that's it. But like I said, using a soldering iron, much easier. Any cheap soldering iron will do. Just need to heat it up and touch the back of one of the wires. And as you see it melt, you just pull with your other hand. There you go. Yeah, much easier, much cleaner. And then you're just gonna do it for all of them. It would be easier if you can get the helping hands of a human being to hold this for you. But if you don't have anyone, then you can get the helping hands of these helping hands. And please go slow and don't burn yourself. And there you go, all done. Now bid farewell to your old Hasbro board and say hello to the new shiny GPStar board. Oh wait, not yet. We still have a lot more prepping to do. All right, now that you finished desoldering and feel like an electronics expert, we're gonna go ahead and go to the next manly thing and take a screwdriver to do some drilling. What we need to do is access this area back here. And in order to do that first, we need to move this cable out of the way. And you're gonna do that by taking some tweezers. And what we're gonna do is slide it out in between this little tiny area right here. So take your wire and you're gonna try to flatten it as possible to make it fit. So you're gonna push down, and I'm flattening it out against the wall, and you're just gonna slowly shimmy it through. What I find helps is to give it more slack by pushing this down as much as you can, and then shimmying it through. Okay, yep, and almost got it. Okay, there we go. Nothing fancy about it. It just took some persistence, and it helps to have various thin types of tools. If you make a mistake, you can try to pull it back and go do it again. Like I said, when I had to push down and give it a lot of slack, that definitely did help. Okay, so when you take your drill, and you're gonna want to take a small drill bit first. We're gonna drill a pilot hole here. See if I can move in with some better light. As you can see here, this little section right here, this is actually part of the handle right there. So we need to access that. So the two things you need to worry about mostly when you're drilling here is that you want to get as close to the right side as possible. You don't want to go over here to the left. And you want to make sure you're going in at a 45-degree angle, not straight down. It has to be 45. And then move up to a bigger drill bit. And then take your wires here and just do a test to make sure it goes through. And if it does feed through, you can just go ahead and put these in one at a time. Okay, so it comes out the other end, so we're good to go. And you know what, while we're back here, we might as well finish this end and get this closed up. So go ahead and take this Neutrona connector here, the screw that comes with it. And you're gonna be using one of these three connectors here. When these wands were produced, there were different starting points for these threads that you see here. So we made 3 of these that should correspond to each version of the wand. So just try each of them out until you get one where the hole is lined up along the bottom. Then grab your Neutrona connector, and starting with one positive, we're gonna stick in the red wire and screw it in tight. Give it a tug. Double check that is actually clamped down on the exposed part and not the cable cover. Next, one negative, that will be the black wire. And then 2 positive, and that will be the yellow wire. And last, the 2 negative, and that will be the blue wire. And then put it in with the hole lined up with the bottom. Stick in your connector. And then what you can do is, as you're threading this, you can just hold the middle part still with some pliers. And once you have that lined up, you can take your screw with an Allen key and just screw that in. All done. And then you can go ahead and put this piece back on. And one last thing to prep, there are 3 sets of black and red wires, 3 pairs. One of these pairs are not necessary. So how we find out which one is you take one of them, like so this one here. These 2 are attached. Give it a bit of a tug and see where it leads. So this one, looking to the back here, you see it moving? That is the rumble motor. So we do need this one. So put that one aside. And the next one was over here. Also, these 2 are also attached to each other. And giving it a tug, you'll see down here that this one moves. This is the slow blow LED. So we do need that one. And then so the last one are these 2 over here that are not attached. These are connected to the battery tray in the rear handle here. So this one, we don't need it. You can actually just cut these off. Yeah, you'll never touch them again. But if you're uncomfortable with that, just at least tape them up. and then just shove them deep into the recesses of your wand and never touch them again. And now we can finally move on to the installation of the GPStar board. So the board comes with all these terminal doors pre-closed. Take your small flathead screwdriver and you're gonna have to unscrew them all by twisting to the left. Just like that. And when you're inserting these wires, make sure you're clamping down on just the exposed part, not the sleeve here. Otherwise the connection won't be made and you're gonna have a lot of issues. And a second thing that you might come across is when you're screwing these up, you might run into a situation when the door just won't close for every reason. I'm not able to demonstrate because all these are working, but if you do run into that situation, all you need to do is take a small tool, like some tweezers, and you want to push the door upwards towards the top of the screw. And as you're doing that, you go ahead and screw the top here, and that will reestablish the connection between the screw and the door, and it should be fine from there on. Alright, we're gonna start with this wire right over here, this orange-ish wire. You can go ahead and give this one a tug, and if you see that moving, then you know you got the right one. This belongs to the barrel retraction switch. Okay, so for this one, order does not matter. You're gonna stick it into the first two terminal doors here and screw them in. Double check that they are clamped down on the actual exposed wire, and also give them a bit of a gentle tug to make sure that it's secure. Next, we're gonna do the slow blow light. So look for the black and red wire pairing. Give that tug to make sure that it's being pulled over here. You see it moving. For this one, order does matter. So we're gonna start the red one first to go into the door next to the orange wires. And then the black one. Give that a bit of a tug. Next, we're gonna take the brown wire. This is the lower toggle switch. Order does not matter. Then the upper toggle switch, which is these two red wires. Then the red and yellow wire, that is the clipper LED. We are going to go with the red one first. Then we're going to grab the other black and red wire, and this is the rumble motor. And we're going to put the red one in first. Okay, jumping to the other side, we're going to deal with the bar graph. And the bar graph has 6 wires here. So the first one is going to be the blue wire. Then the green and yellow. Okay, so blue, green, yellow, and then we're going to go orange, and then red, and then brown. Next, we're going to do the top vent light. So look for the black, white, and red wire. And starting with the white one, which is in the middle here. So you got to cross that over a little bit. And then the black. And finally the red. Okay, and then the last one is the rotary encoder, which is the orange, red, and brown wire. So we're going to start with the orange one, then red, then brown. Okay, and that's it. Double check the wires, make sure that they're correct. Give them all a bit of a tug to make sure they're secure. Make sure that it's not clamped down on the cover. Make sure it's clamped down on the exposed parts. And that's it for the terminal blocks. Now we're going to move on to the connectors. Then from your kit, grab this crazy looking contraption. We affectionately refer to it as the wand cage. Oops. And then you're gonna take your board and it's gonna go up and over that little ledge. And it's gonna sit on there like that. Then moving all these connector wires aside, this just goes ahead and sits inside the wand. Okay, so let's go ahead and connect these connectors. I'm just gonna start with this 4-pin wire here, and that goes into this connector right here. Okay, next then the red and black wire. This is the power wire that goes through the handle and connects to the hose into the pack. And that goes into this middle connector right here. And then the data cable that runs through the handle, those blue and yellow wire, this will connect to this connector here that says TX1, RX1. And then the hat light switch that is on the front of the barrel, this goes all the way across to SW6 over here. And finally, the LEDs in the barrel. This one, you're gonna wanna go across this way, and then that goes over here to Q2. Next, grab your GPStar audio board. And like before, we're gonna need to open up these terminals. So unscrew it to the left. Double check that this switch is set to boot. Insert your SD card, make sure that the audio files are on there. Grab this cable and stick the big end to the connector. And then take these yellow wires. These are the speaker wires. Unfortunately, they are quite short, so it's gonna be not much room to work with, but we're gonna need to install these into the terminal. Okay, once you've got these painstakingly installed, I'll just lift up the cage a little bit, and there's a little groove right there. You can probably just put the wires in between that so that it stays out of the way of the barrel. And then rotate it around. Like I said, it's gonna be tight. And then take this end, and that goes into the gray connector here. And then you're gonna sit it in between these posts. One there. And then this auxiliary port thing here goes in there. And then this other end clamps in here. And that should hold it there. Just double check your speaker wires, make sure it's still connected. Looks good. Okay, and then now we just kind of tuck in the wires, make sure they're all in there and out of the way. So that. The wires that go over top here are good. This one's very important. Make sure these wires down here are tucked in. Just leave this barrel one out as much as you can. And then do a quick clearance test with the barrel. Make sure nothing catches on. Okay, and that's it. We actually finished installing the GPStar Essential Kit. But before I close this up, I do want to show you one more thing. Before we do that, we're not gonna fully close it up. We're just gonna put this lid back on and go ahead and run over to your pack and plug this in and just do a quick test to make sure everything's working. All right, so we got our wand here. So let's connect this bad boy. Power on your battery. And then when you stick in your hose connector here, if you hear a sound effect, that indicates that the connection is good and you should be good to go. Yep, that indication is that we're connected. So let's power it on. Whoops, sorry, I had these toggle switches up. Okay. Looks good. Try to do the next switch. All 3 switches are good. Dial's good. I'm trying to fire, but the safety is on, so the retraction barrel is good. And then firing. Firing is good. Yep, all good. Okay, great. Looks like everything in the wand is working perfectly fine. So let's open this back up. And the last thing I want to talk about is updating the software kit. As you know, the GPStar kit is always being updated and improved on. And how you would normally do that is you got to open up the wand. If the SD card files need to be updated, sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. You got to take that out, plug that to your computer, copy over the files and plug that back in. And then for the board itself, you're going to take the program cable that came with your kit and make sure that the ground wire, which is the black wire, is on the right side. And you're going to stick into these 6 pins over here. Plug the other end into the USB into your computer, load up the flasher, and then update the file. And obviously it's a little frustrating to always have to open wand to do that. So the last thing I actually want to show you is a much easier way to do this updating. And it is a kit that's not sold by GPStar. It's actually a mod that's created by one of our community members, Tomohiro, aka RadisLAB. And you can go ahead and buy his digital files on his Etsy site. You'll get the 3D printed files that you can print off yourself, including instructions showing exactly what parts you need to buy. You can get all these parts pretty cheap off AliExpress. Links are in his instruction manual. And for the 3D printed parts, you can always print these yourself, or if you don't have a 3D printer, you can just go online and use one of the many 3D printing services. And now what I recommend you do is print the outside piece here in a resin, a black resin. That way you don't have to deal with any sanding like you would if you printed it in FDM, like this one. You see all the layer lines. So if the layer lines don't bother you, yeah, you can go ahead and print these in an FDM printer. Otherwise, if you print this in a black resin, nice and smooth, no layer lines, no post-processing needed. Okay, so for the installation, take this red board here and take your jumper cables. There are some that will have a black color that will definitely help you. This one I'm using doesn't have it, but so I'm just go with the blue. So I'm going to designate this blue as the ground wire. Now, so with the board facing up, this pin here is the ground wire. So we're going to connect that like this. And then you're actually going to need to bend this about 30 degrees. So I'm just going to head and bend that down a little bit. Probably easier to take some pliers to do it. That should be enough. And then next, take this inner piece, and that installs like this. And then take this latch and slide it in to hold that in place. And then grab this SD card extender. Take this end and slide it in. Make sure this is facing up. And this actually, I think, depends on the tolerance of your print. Yeah, this can actually just stays in pretty snug. Doesn't move around too much. But if you want it to be more secure, you can just add a bit of glue in the back or some hot glue, and that should be good to go. Next, grab the bottom piece of your wand, and we're going to remove this. There's a tiny bit of glue right in the middle that's holding this down. So you just give it a hard yank. Okay, moving back to the wand here, pop out the SD card and place it into the SD card extender here. Close it and push down to secure it. You should hear a tiny bit of a snap to know that it's closed properly. Take off the GPStar audio board. Flip this around. Okay, and then with this end facing down, just going to test to make sure it goes in and stays in. Oh, luckily this one does. So it should click in just like the SD card. I don't know if you can hear that. Yep, this one stays in. I got lucky. Here's the thing. The latch on these mechanisms, they're pretty sensitive, and depending on your board, you might get one that doesn't latch on quite a bit. It's really strange, even though these are designed to be the same size as the SD card. For a reason, some of these, they just won't stay in. So what you can do then is take some sandpaper and you can sand down the front here just a little bit. You don't want to go too far to hit these contact points, but you can just sand it down just enough that it should be able to click in afterwards. So I did this myself for one of my personal wands, and that worked out just fine. Another solution is, if it doesn't click in, is you can hold it in and then just drop a bit of hot glue on top, and then keep holding it until it dries, and then it should stay put. Okay, flipping this back over, reseat the GPStar audio board. Feed these two ends down and up over the under the wand cage. Then take the jumper cable, and you want to take that ground wire that we mentioned earlier, and make sure that this one is pointing to the right of the pin. So this pin all the way over here is the ground wire. So make sure your ground wire lines up. Very important that you get this right. Okay, and then just insert this piece. Plug in the SD card extender. And then that's it. Go ahead if you want. Just pop this back on, bring this to your pack. Do another test to make sure the SD card sound effects are playing. This is the 1.1 test. And if you want, now you can plug in a USB-C cable to the front here, and connect it to your computer. Just flash it, just make sure that the update does work. And once you've done all that, let's close this guy back up. One important tip when you're screwing these in is to not over tighten. You want to just tighten it until you start feeling resistance and just back off. It's good enough. You don't want to end up stripping the threads inside, and which I have done with one of my wands. Take the cap. This just simply goes in and twists on. And the last thing you need to do, take the gun track and snip off the ends of this triangle, this cone. And then test it out, make sure that this can sit flush. That's good. Go ahead and pop in the screws. Again, do not over tighten.